Hello and welcome to Sunday's sermon on Politics Social. I'm Graham Hughes. Welcome. Sorry, I was a little bit late getting started there. Gallifreyan Wren is in the chat along with Sarah Davis, Pete's Music, Irene Hughes. Hi, Mum. We've also got, better not swear, eh? And then we've got Daylight M in there as well. And Sid, Shropshire Chris, and others. Hey, everyone. If you'd like to join our friends in the chat as I'm giving the sermon, you can do that by just hitting the subscribe button and waiting for approximately 1 minute. If you want me to definitely read out what you've said, then just drop a small super chat in there and it comes up big and bold and bright on the list here of people's comments, and I will read it out. So, we're going to be talking about immigration today, possibly going over a bit of territory we've already covered on this channel, but let's just kind of put it all together, you know? Let's just take an opportunity to do a whole show about setting the record straight. Immigration is not out of control to start with, right? This is the situation that we're being told is happening. It's out of control. No, it's completely within the government's control. There's two things they can do. First of all, visas. So if you want to work over here, you have to apply. You have to spend a lot of money applying at a British High Commission, High Embassy, whatever it's called, Embassy or High Commission. Around the world, you have to apply, you have to pay to apply. And if we say yes, you have certain strict rules that you have to abide by. Like you have no recourse to public funds. You also cannot access the NHS without paying the NHS surcharge, which everyone who's not a British citizen who has a work visa in their passport has to pay. And then there's the irregular migration we have. So that's all of the and that is the lion's share. That's 97% of the immigration coming into the UK. It's from a visa. The government said, we need more people to do X, right? There's no open door policy. There's never been, you know? The closest we ever came to an open door policy was when we were in the EU and we had freedom of movement around the EU, as did all EU citizens, right? Now, we still have that with Ireland, and Ireland still has that with us. But Ireland still has that with every other country in the EU. We don't. So if we want people to come over here, we have to make an offer. We have to make an offer. And the offer that we can give to most Europeans, and don't forget, Poland per capita and their GDP are going to overtake us in 2 years' time if trends continue the way they are. Poland is going to overtake us. So why would a Polish person come here? Why would they? Why would they leave their friends and family behind? Why would they leave the only home they've ever known to come to the UK when they will earn less money than they will staying in Poland, where a place where the food that they buy, the amount of rent they have to pay, is substantially more in this country than it is in Poland. So, I mean, it makes no sense. There is no open door policy. There never has been. The 3% of people who come here, out of all of the immigrants who come here, who arrive via irregular means, are not everyone. And there has been a huge conflation on purpose by the press, by the media, by the disgusting oil-soaked trolls like Nigel Farage, to pretend that it's all one thing. Everyone working in the shop. You turn up at the shop and there's someone serving you who isn't white. It's because they came here on a boat. That's the fantasy that they want to sell. It's absolute bullshit. But here's the thing, right? I say this from the very essence of my being, okay? Humans move. It's ancient. It's natural. It's universal. Humans fucking move. Human migration predates nation building, predates countries, predates borders and passports and visa stipulations. The idea of going somewhere else and starting anew happens. And yes, while there are some people who are happy to stay in their village and listen to everything Nigel Farage says and marry their sister and don't go anywhere and don't see anything and just believe everything they read on the news about London being the most dangerous city in the world, even though violent crime is down 60%. 60%. It's down 60% since 2003. But yeah, it's the most dangerous country in the world. Has a murder rate like 20 times lower, 20 times lower than Washington, D.C. But yeah, whatever, dangerous place. You might get your phone robbed. Have you been to Barcelona? Anyway, movement is part of survival, part of trade, part of culture, part of human evolution. We would not have evolved the way that humans evolved without migration. The reason why Whitey here looks so fucking white is because my ancestors left Africa, left Ethiopia, or what's now Ethiopia, and they came across to Europe and they met another species of human called Neanderthals. And they thought, ooh, these Neanderthals are quite sexy. And that's why a small percentage of my DNA is Neanderthal. If you want to talk about pure humans, if you want to go down the social Darwinism, eugenics bullshit route, actually, African people from Africa, the Ethiopians, they're pure Homo sapiens. We've had our DNA diluted by another species of human here in Europe. Cool. That's why we can all drink milk, probably. I don't know. Anyway, drink milk past the age of 4. Movement is normal. Movement is normal. And immobility is strange and it's constricting. Do you meet many people who don't like going out, don't like going on holiday? I mean, there are some. Phil hates going out, but they're few and far between. Most of us like going somewhere nice. Most of us enjoy the novelty, especially those of us blessed with ADHD who require the dopamine hit of the novel. There's no better dopamine hit than waking up in a new place every day for the 4 years. Oh, wow. Let me tell you. From personal experience. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. The impact on the NHS and the care sector that concerns me the most. Disabled people of any age, like me, and the elderly pay the price. Do you mean the impact on the NHS and the care sector if we didn't have people coming here, Ivan? Can you just explain that? Sorry, a little bit more. You don't have to pay. Just put it in the chat. Because I'll tell you now, if it wasn't for care workers coming from other countries, my dad would have got no care over the last 5 years. Every single care worker that has been to come to see him every single day for the last 5 years has been a foreign national who's come here to help out. I'm with Phil. Going out your own town is wild and dangerous behaviour, says person impersonator. So yeah, there's some introverts in the chat, and that's fair enough. But I don't think that the rich people who enjoy freedom of movement, who can go and travel and live anywhere in the world because they're rich, should restrict that ability, that power from the rest of us. Take that ability from the rest of us. And they've done that with Brexit. They've taken away our chance to live and work, retire, settle down, get married, build a house, build a company. They've taken that away from us in all those other countries. They've still got it. They didn't take it away from themselves and they didn't take it away from their children. Historically, closed societies like North Korea, Afghanistan under the Taliban, Turkmenistan, Eritrea are some of the poorest countries in the world because they don't allow anyone in. They don't allow anyone out as well. Mobility is not a thing in these countries. And these countries are poor, they're isolated, they're always run by authoritarian regimes. And the freest countries in the world are always the most mobile. That is it. The people in those countries are the freest. They're free to go anywhere they want, generally speaking. In 2010, British people had the most powerful passport in the world when it was this colour. And then we decided to get rid of that and we decided to get this passport, which isn't as powerful. I think we dropped out the top 20 in recent years for Passport Power Index. Thanks for that, Nigel. So, yeah. So the United States, in contrast with North Korea and Turkmenistan, that openly recruited immigrants for 200 years, only stopped this year. The US encouraged mass migration, mass immigration, until, there's an argument that they stopped it in the 1920s, but even before then, the entire Industrial Revolution in America was fueled by European, Asian, and Latin American migrants. And until very, recently the US had the largest immigrant intake in the world. In the world. And that's no surprise. And it's no surprise why America's far and away the richest country in the world. Because they encouraged immigration. They encouraged people, strivers, the brightest and the best, to leave where they were and come to America. They gave incentives for people to come. And the American economy did really fucking well out of it. Canada, Australia, immigration as national strategy. Both countries deliberately used migration to grow their economies, to fill skill gaps and to expand the population. Australians' system is literally designed to encourage skilled immigration, the point system that they have. The richest countries have the most immigration and the poorest countries have the least. In fact, poor countries generally have people leaving in vast numbers because it's so shit that they don't want to live there. High GDP correlates strongly with migrant flows, inward migrant flows, not outward. Closed border countries are often dictatorships with weak economies. Time and time again, we see that. And countries that are just shit, like Russia. I don't want to diss every Russian person. Not every Russian person's a dick, but as a country, I wouldn't want to fucking live in Russia. Would you like to live in Russia, looking over your shoulder all the time? Fucking, for the tap from the fucking Stasi or what are they called? The KGB? No, the FSB these days, aren't they? The FSB turn up, tap you on the shoulder, send you off to a fucking gulag because you did a laughing emoji at a joke that someone else put on the internet. Spend the rest of your life in the fucking freezing cold prison camp on the edge of fucking civilization. Well, I wouldn't really call Russia very civilized for the best of times. Miss Paula Thomas, interestingly, Neanderthals don't have the mouth parts necessary for speech, but could make tones as it's thought they use these to communicate. That's very interesting. That is very interesting. Yes, Graham, when NHS and care sectors rely so much from workers overseas, if they are cared, people will suffer, particularly disabled people and the elderly. Yeah, Ivan, I totally agree. Sorry, mate. I thought for a horrible moment there that you were talking about, like, immigrants using the NHS too much and that was stopping us from getting services from the NHS, when actually, as we both know, the reality is the opposite of that. And that is something that we really, really do rely on immigrants in this country because we've got a declining birth rate, which I'll get into in a moment. But Japan is a really good case study on why we need immigration. So what happened was in the 1970s and 80s, Japan was on top of the world. Japan was just absolutely dominating the world with cars, Toyota, with game systems, Nintendo, with entertainment systems, Sony. These companies, just absolute behemoths that were just striding over the competition from China or Taiwan or America or Europe, right? And they were going great guns. It got to such a point that in the 1990s, Japan became the second biggest economy in the world. And it still is to this day. After the US, it's Japan, right? And actually, technically, after the US, it's the EU. But if you're just looking at individual countries, it's Japan. But in the 90s, they just stopped. And there's a few factors in this. I'm not going to say it's all because of lack of immigration, but a big part of this is you had an aging population who needed to be taken care of, and people were having fewer children. Fewer and fewer and fewer children. And as a result of that, it meant there was no one, that you get this top-heavy thing, which we talked about before, where if you have over 50% of your population are not working because they're retired or their children, right? Over 50%, and you have under 50% of the people working, then that less than 50% of the people who are working are having to do twice as much work for half as much pay to pay for everything, to pay for everyone. And don't forget, once you get older, your care costs more. It just does. Shit, I know, but you're more likely to be ill. You're more likely to have an accident. You're more likely to need treatment, which can cost hundreds, tens, or even hundreds of thousands of pounds per person. Someone is working and paying their tax, and that's paying towards that. Now, if you've got 3 people or 4 people or 5 people to everyone who's retired, then great, you can do it. But when it's down to 1-to-1, no, you can't shoulder that burden. You can't pay for all that care. You can't pay for all the medical help that these people need. And I'm not saying we should take it away. We need more people. We need more young people in Japan. Its economy has stagnated since the 90s. It's hardly fucking grown. And we've seen this, it's evident. Go and check it out for yourself. Don't take my word for it. And one of the big reasons for that, not the only reason, I know it's not the only reason, but one of the big reasons for it is because they don't really have much immigration. They make it very difficult. Japan is quite a racist society against people who aren't Japanese. They don't like people from other places going to live there. And although I know personally some people who have moved to Japan and settled down there and absolutely love the place, that they're not as encouraging as they could have been. And that has had a huge impact on their economy. But, I don't know if the Japanese guy in the street is that arsed about it. They still have quite a good standard of living, but there is a ticking time bomb that the boomer generation is getting older and older and more infirm and needs looking after, and there's not enough young people in the workforce to pay that bill. So the UK's fertility, just similarly, is around 1.5. It needs to be 2.1 to achieve replacement levels. Without immigration, Britain faces labour shortages, shrinking tax receipts, and unsustainable pension and care systems. Why aren't people having kids? Well, because the cost of living's gone through the roof. I don't have kids, and that was a decision made because we knew that we couldn't afford any more kids. Cat's already got 2. So there you go. I've not contributed to the population in this country. A lot of dickheads have, so good luck in the future, idiocracy. But immigrants pay more in tax than they take in services. And this is really important. So not just that we need people coming here to fill in these gaps in our industries and in our workplace and in care homes and things like that. But here's the thing. Without immigration, we'll take in a lot less tax. Because immigrants pay this a proportionally high amount of tax, but they don't take as much in services because so many of them are young workers in their 20s and their 30s. They don't need the NHS as much, and they cannot claim benefits. They cannot go, there's people idea that you can just get a visa from Jamaica and just turn up at the dole office and they'll just give you 150 quid. It's not real. That doesn't happen. There's never, just the idea of it is just nonsense, but it gets around and people honestly believe it. Ivan, thank you very much for the £5 super chat, mate. Back to going out or not. I'm housebound, so I can't go anywhere, but it's not like I don't like going out. It's because I can't go out. Yeah, Ivan, and I completely understand that. And I can understand how you would love to go out if you could. And in the same way that many of us would love to go and live in somewhere in Europe if we could, but we can't. Whereas with you, it's a situation where you've got health problems. For the rest of us, who have had this thing taken away from us, it's because rich people didn't want us to have it, but wanted to keep it for themselves. So yeah, I can't, I can empathise. I'm trying to say I can empathise with your situation because it's really fucking frustrating. It's really frustrating. And just because there are some people who genuinely don't want to go out, they generally don't like going out, they don't like going to places. It's a big ball ache for them to go anywhere. They shouldn't be able to stop the rest of us. That's just the way I feel about it, I'm a traveller, I'm a backpacker, I like being on the road, I like visiting new places and meeting new people. But yeah, the looking at Japan and then looking at the future of the UK, Japan refused to allow large-scale immigration to counter falling birth rates. And now it has a surging population. It's got one of the worst democratic crises in the world. And it still resists immigration to this day. In the UK, we could have a world in which, or a country in which we invite people over. The brightest and the best, but also just workers, people who want to come here and make them feel welcome. Because they're generally younger, they work more, claim fewer benefits, and they retire later than native Brits. And the NHS, as Ivan pointed out, It will fucking collapse without migrant workers. It will collapse. Could you imagine going to the hospital and there being no one there to look after you? That is the dream of Nigel Farage and his mates. You need to get this through to people who are thinking of voting for refuck. You need to tell them this. This is the end game for them. Dismantle the NHS. Give it to private healthcare providers. Move to a insurance-based model like what they have in America. Ask an American on January the 1st when they get their new insurance premiums and they've doubled or tripled or quadrupled from what they were paying before. And they decide, well, I can't afford that. Can't have healthcare. So if if their loved one gets hit by a car, they will be putting their bloodied remains in the back of their car and driving them to a hospital and begging them to be put back together, because you don't want to have to pay for that ambulance. Around 1 in 5 NHS workers are foreign born. 1 in 5. 20%. Care homes, as I've mentioned, they rely heavily on migrant labour, especially from Africa and Asia. Southeast Asia. South Asia in particular. And immigration counteracts demographic decline. Countries with lower immigration, Japan, South Korea, face unsustainable economic futures. Countries with high immigration, like Canada, Australia, maintain stronger growth. And it's not like the borders of Australia are open. And they have the same problems that we have over here with the racists and the dickheads and the people coming over in small boats, you have to kill them all mentality. They have their Rwanda scheme. It's in an island called Nauru, which is an island state shaped like a potato in the middle of nowhere in the Pacific Ocean. Has one supply ship goes once a month, drop off all the needs. Nauru, and they send people off to this island, this windswept island on the equator in the Pacific. If we had a genuine open door policy that anyone could apply for working and for immigration, and for asylum, this is the system that I want, right? When I say open door, I don't mean that means that anyone can just turn up in Heathrow Airport and expect to be able to work, okay? Because that's going to undercut British workers. That's not a good plan. Good plan is to have it so that anyone can apply from anywhere to live and work here. Hey, newsflash, peeps. They pretty much can. The only people who can't do that are people coming from war zones. So people coming from places like Eritrea, North Korea, Turkmenistan, authoritarian regimes, war zones, places that, there's no British embassy to go to. They become asylum seekers. So let's have a system where you can apply for asylum from anywhere. We do this for Ukrainians. You can apply for asylum in the UK, in Ukraine. You can apply from Poland. You can apply from Germany. You can apply from Belgium, or from the Netherlands, or from France, or from Luxembourg, or from Switzerland if you want to. Anywhere in the world. You can apply from America. You can apply from Australia. You can apply from fucking Macedonia. You can apply from Brunei if you're feeling fruity. Okay? You can anywhere in the world that has something called the World Wide Web. You can get on the World Wide Web and you can apply for asylum from the war that's going on in Ukraine in the UK. And 99 times out of 100, it will be granted. Bit racist that we do that for white people, but we won't do it for people who aren't white. But yeah, it's there. The system is there. And all we need to do is expand that system. More taxpayers, more funding for public services. Empirically, immigrants and immigration, right, raises productivity and innovation. It raises the amount of entrepreneurialism in the UK, which apparently the capitalists love, unless the person doing that particular form of entrepreneurship is the wrong colour, and then I don't know, they'll fucking kill them. Like what happened in America 100 years ago. So yeah, but then we've got this sort of migration panic, this fear, fraud, deliberate misdirection. Farage and the far right conflate legal migration with irregular crossings. small boats. They pretend visas and small boats are the same problem. They are not. In fact, visas are not a problem. The only problem with visas is we're not giving enough out. Should be doing more. Legal migration is government controlled. Small boats are a symptom of the lack of safe routes into this country. The fact that people can't apply for asylum in the UK, in this country. All of the other people have come here because they have applied, they've paid some money, they've filled out some forms, they've given their photographs, they've given their fingerprints, and the British government has said, here, have a visa, come to the UK and work. What's the problem? What is the problem? It's a bit like getting angry with Amazon for employing so many people. How dare you employ all these people? Well, they applied to work here and we got the application and we looked at it and went, yes, we would like you to work here. Yeah. Britain decides immigration numbers, not the migrants. Britain decides. Visas are based on government criteria, work visas, student visas, which are conflated, by the way, because the student visas are put in with the immigration figures, which is mad, because if you're a student here on a student visa, you're kicked out the country as soon as you graduate, which I think is really crazy. I think you should be made to stay in the country after you graduate and give us some of the skills that lend some of the skills that you've learned. In the same way that when you become a doctor or when you become a dentist, I think you should have to do X many years, 10 years, in the public sector, working as an NHS dentist and NHS doctor. That is it. You got 10 years, then you can go private if you really want to. But family visas. These are people who have family around the world that they want to be reunited with, and that's fair enough. Health and care worker visas. This is huge. This is absolutely huge. 1 in 5 NHS staff are from other countries. They were born in another country. These are policy choices. This isn't an out-of-control immigration situation. We are deciding who comes here. We're a fucking island. What are they going to do, swim? Come across in a small boat and work? They can't. And this brings us on to the asylum system, which is broken. It's not the asylum seekers' fault. It is the system that is broken. The UK pulled out of the Dublin Agreement. Those boats are Farage boats, because before Brexit, asylum seekers could be returned to the first European country that they entered or they applied for asylum in. After Brexit, Britain lost this mechanism, causing a backlog and more irregular arrivals because we couldn't just send people back straight away. We had to check out who they were. The backlog was government made. Successive governments underfunded asylum processing, or the Tory government did. Caseworkers were cut, decisions slowed from weeks to months to years. People were waiting, creating the hotel crisis. And don't forget, the hotels were a political choice, not an inevitability. Hotels are owned by private companies, many with Tory donors linked to the contracts that they were given. Hotels cost billions with a B because the government refused to allow asylum seekers or work or rent normally, while their case was being looked at. Why not? Why not let them work? In America, asylum seekers can work, or they could until Trump. I don't know what the situation is now, but their economy is going to take a massive hit in the next few months. You wait and see. But the fact that asylum seekers can't work, they used to be able to until I think 2003. It was Tony Blair who decided that asylum seekers couldn't work in this country anymore. He was worried about people coming over and claiming asylum because they were going to work, and they knew that they could have a few months of work and then they'll get deported. There's a free trip home, and that seemed worth it. So fine, do a system where you have to apply before you get here. That's it. If you turn up without applying, then we take your fingerprints and we take you back on a boat to the asylum seekers processing centre in Calais. There you go. Fucking apply. And if we've said no, we've got your fingerprints, we've got your iris scan. Doesn't matter. I mean, every single person I ever meet around here who's a fucker, they always go, they throw the passports in the sea. They throw the passports in the sea. They throw the... Oh, fuck off. Who cares? I don't care. Sorry, Mum, for swearing. But what's that got to do with anything? If there was legal safe routes, they'll be hanging on to that passport for dear life. But many asylum seekers don't have a passport. Don't forget, half of Americans don't have a passport. If that country erupted into civil war tomorrow and people legged it over the border to Mexico or to Canada, millions of them would not have a passport because they just don't have one. There's people in this country who do not have a passport. If we all descended into, I don't know, fucking tribal conflict, internecine warfare, and we legged it, there'll be some people from this country who didn't have a fucking passport. They'll still have fingerprints, though. They'll still have some form of fucking ID to go with those fingerprints. And when they turn up with the same fucking fingerprints, we can say, well, you've been here before, mate. I don't care if you changed your name or what country you say you come from. These are your fingerprints. You said you were from this country. You said this was your name. We've already said no. Fuck off. And then they lie about the European Court of Human Rights. Here's the fact that you need to tell people. You're watching this. Hopefully you're a sensible person. I think you are. You need to tell people that this crusade against the European Convention of Human Rights and the idea that the court is somehow stopping us from deporting people. It is not. There's only been 29 cases in my lifetime. I'm 46. There's been 29 cases and the government won half of them. So explain it to me. Explain it to me like I'm an idiot. Because it's got nothing to do with our migration policy. But the Farigists, the fash, they want you to believe. They want you to believe. And yeah, the fact that asylum seekers are banned from working forces dependency and creates public resentment. If we had safe routes, we know who these people are. And if they come over here, the processing will already be done. So they can work straight away. Work straight away. There you go. Solved it. Without even having to change that particular law about asylum seekers not being able to work. Although I genuinely believe that if someone comes across, right, on a visa, which some people do, from Iran, and they leg it from the airport, or they're changing planes and they leg it from the airport, and then they claim asylum. So you can't really take them over to Calais. Yes, we should have places for them to stay and process their asylum claim. But don't forget, for those people to get here in the first place, if they're coming from any kind of war-torn country around the world, they need a visa. They need a visa. I remember when I was in Nigeria and I asked a guy when I was crossing the border, I said, well, why'd you make it so hard to get in? Because it's really difficult to get into Nigeria. And he said, because you make it difficult for us. And I went, oh, okay, can't argue with that. But yeah, we do. We really do. I've told you before when I met someone who worked in an African embassy, high commission, actually. It was in a Commonwealth country. And they told me that their job was just saying no to refugees, saying no to asylum seekers every day. They'll come in and say, can I get asylum in the UK? And they'll say, let's look into it. They'll keep them waiting for a couple of months and then they'll say no. Every time. 100% of the time. They never, ever granted asylum in the whole time that they were there. They just had to say no. And it was a bit soul-crushing, to say the least. And yeah, we got, the fact that unless you're Ukrainian or you're from Hong Kong, there's almost no legal routes to the UK. Afghan safe routes are mostly non-functional, and this forces people into boats. There were no boats before Farage took us out the EU. Before 2017, there were no votes. No boats. No votes, no boats. 10 years ago, nobody gave a shit about people coming over in boats because no one was coming over in boats. 10 years ago, no one gave a shit what toilet someone went for a poo in outside. It's suddenly become the most important thing in the world. 15 years ago, no one gave a shit about the EU. No one. No one. In a survey at the time in 2010, during the election of 2010, people were asked what their top 3 or 5 priorities were, and hardly anyone said getting out of the EU. Hardly anybody. It's like 1%. 1% of the population said, yeah, that's a really important thing to me. Nearly everyone said healthcare. Nearly everyone said cost of living. Nearly everyone said fixing the potholes. Nearly everyone said education. The things that people actually give a shit about. Not just manufactured culture wars created by these foreign tyrant billionaires from like Murdoch or the Saudis or Putin or whoever, just trying to cause trouble. So yeah, Labour's new policy, which was announced today on the Laura Kuntzberg show by our new Home Secretary. Previously, 5 years you had to be here before applying for indefinite leave to remain. And the new plan creates 2.5-year temporary permits, and they need to be repeatedly reassessed for 20 years. So that's a 20-year wait for an asylum seeker to settle permanently. 20 years with the sword of Damocles hanging over you. I couldn't think of anything more stupid and cruel for the Labour government to do, knowing, as they do, that they're doing such a shit job right now. There is a very good chance that refuck could win the next election because of the shit job Labour's doing. The fucking comms, the infighting, the bullshit, all of it. And now they're going, hey, I tell you what, right? How about you wait 20 years? Because probably, maybe not the next election, but maybe the election after, refuck get in, and then they'll just fucking deport you because it's refuck. What were you expecting? If you get permanent leave to remain, the government will not legally be able to get rid of you. Although they would like to. They would like to. Nigel Farage has gone on record to say that he would like that to happen. That is something that he would love to do. Ms. Paula Thomas, thank you so much for the incredibly generous £20 this morning. Oh, that's really sweet of you. I was going to treat Kat to a coffee out, and I might get a slice of cake now this afternoon, thanks to you, Ms. Paula Thomas. Thank you. You're very kind. I know someone who escaped Bangladesh in the middle of a civil war by swimming for his life with bullets hitting the water either side of him. Tell me how he was meant to go back for his birth certificate. Yeah, exactly, Ms. Paula Thomas. I couldn't agree more. Could not agree more. Thank you very much, and that person you know of just sounds absolutely incredible that they managed to do that and get away in the middle of a civil war, which is, of all the types of war, civil wars are the worst because it pits neighbor against neighbor, and you go out, you can't trust anyone because you don't know who's on that side and who's on your side. You don't know who's you don't know who's with the government and who's a rebel. You don't know who's a Houthi or who's a Tutsi. Tutsi? Hutu. Who's a Hutu or who's a Tutsi? You don't know. Neighbor versus neighbor. It's really fucking grim. You don't know who voted for Trump. You don't know who voted for Farage. Well, you can probably guess. They'll probably be older, bald, sort of purple in the face. Kirsty, thank you very much, Kirsty, for the £5 super chat. Please don't turn the country into East Germany, or we'll have to get David Hasselhoff to knock down the wall. Yeah, I really don't want to have. David Hasselhoff, he can turn up in kit and drive around and solve crimes, but no, I really don't want to go into that world where we're not allowed to travel anymore. We're not allowed to go anywhere. We're not allowed to fall in love. That's a big thing for me. Like, they've banned people like you and me from falling in love with someone from another country. It's not rich enough. Marrying a foreigner is just something that the rich people can do, which is why all the rich people do it. That's why Farage did it. That's why Trump did it, because they can afford to. They want to show off. Look, it's my wife from another country. Can you have a wife from another country? No, I can't afford it. I don't earn enough. Literally do not earn enough. And it's not even a case of like having to pay for your wife to exist, because obviously your wife could work, your husband can work. But no, the deal is you've got to be earning, what is it, £38,000 a year now to have a wife or a husband from another country. I mean, the rich, that's nothing to them. It's bubblegum. They don't give a fuck. One rule for them, another for us. So yeah, this new plan I think is just disgusting. 20 years, refugee status constantly reviewed. Refugees could be deported back to their home country if it's deemed safe. What a waste of time. What a waste of money. What the fuck are we doing? Like, are you fucking crazy, Labour? I'm sorry for swearing, Mum, but like, this really pisses me off because they're doing the exact wrong thing here. We want these people to work while they're here and get a good job and settle down. How can you get a good job if you might be yanked out the country in a year and a half's time? Hey, it's bad enough the fact that we have a disparity between women's wages and men's wages because women might get pregnant and might take maternity leave. So, we can't pay them the same amount. We don't know what's going to happen. And yet we have the same thing happening with Labour want to have that same thing happening for all asylum seekers. They're never going to be able to say yes, sign a 10-year contract for a job that they are particularly skilled at. No. And then there's that other thing of training. You know, you start a job, you don't know what the fuck you're doing. And then within 2 years, you are an absolute pro at it. You are an old hand. Great. And then the government tap you on the shoulder and say, hey, we think that your country's safe now, so fuck off. They leave. And you've got to train someone new. Great plan, Labour. Great plan, dickheads. This risks sending people back into danger based on political decisions, not on reality. And if we fuck get in, this is like a fantasy world where Labour's got to be in charge forever. It won't be. It won't be. Denmark introduced similar policies as this, widely criticised by human rights groups, obviously. I mean, you know. And temporary protection has not reduced irregular arrivals. It just fucking hasn't. It hasn't worked. This approach does nothing to speed up processing, which is part of the problem. Longer temporary periods don't address the backlog, and in fact, it ties up people who are associated with immigration control, who, you know, get all the data and look through it all. It ties them up looking at historic cases from 15 years ago. So someone who arrived 15 years ago, and then we've got to check your case again. So it's more expense to the taxpayer because you have to pay their wages while they're checking through these things that have already been checked 5 times earlier. But you've got to check them again. 17 and a half years. Oh, we've got to check again. And these policies based on these kind of nebulous ideas of deterrence, they don't work. They don't work. Real world studies shows people fleeing war, torture, persecution, death are not deterred by bureaucratic hurdles. They are not. They go where they can, not where it's easiest. Somewhere where they've got a support network, somewhere where they speak the fucking language. It's hard enough going to a new country and trying to settle down if you don't speak the fucking language. Why do you think so many Brits go to America, Canada, Australia, New Zealand? Why do you think so many Brits go there? Because they speak English. It's a lot easier to go to a country where everyone speaks English. You can get around. You ask for anything you want. Go to the shop, buy something. You don't have to try and communicate through, you know, the medium of dance. And every expert, the UNHCR, the Refugee Council, academics, they all say the same thing. The only practical solution to stopping the boats, getting rid of the backlog, getting rid of the hotel bullshit, all this stuff, right? The only workable solution is to provide safe and legal routes. No more smuggling. Why would you pay $3,000 to a smuggler to get you on a leaky inflatable boat to go across the channel, one of the most dangerous shipping channels in the world, on a stormy night in November? Why would you pay that when you can pay a fraction of that price to apply for asylum in the UK? And if we said no, and you do get on that boat, we have your fingerprints. This is not rocket science. And yes, there are 8 billion people in the world, but not 8 billion people want to come here. Seriously, they don't. Get over yourself, Britain. More people claim asylum in France, in Germany. Loads more people claim asylum in Turkey than they do here. More people claim asylum in Papua New Guinea than they do here. For fuck's sake, work it out. Not everyone wants to be here. Not everyone wants to join in with our beautifully freezing cold, miserable winters, where you don't see the sun for 6 months. Some people don't want that. Surprisingly. Safe routes work. We've seen this with Ukrainians. Arriving safely through official schemes. I've brought over refugees from Ukraine, from Poland. No smuggling gangs required. Same for Hong Kongers. Safe routes. Fast processing. Humane. Efficient, clear the backlog, allow work while they're waiting, give temporary accommodation that isn't hotel profiteering. This is how other countries manage asylum. Canada, Germany, Scandinavia process claims faster. They provide integration support and have less public hostility as a result. I'm not saying these countries are perfect. I'm not saying there's no hostility. Obviously, in East Germany, people who are, they think back to the heady days of the Stasi. Oh, can we please go back to the days of East Germany, please? Put the wall back up. Mr. Gorbachev, build that wall. And they vote for the AfD. The Alternative for Democracy. And they go, why is this happening? Why is this happening? It's really simple. Climate change. The oil companies. Wagner. What do all these things have in common? They are a factory for creating refugees. That's what they are. Rising temperatures, crop failures, floods, conflicts, displacement, oil cartels and petrostates, they're accelerating global warming because they know it will create more refugees. Why? Because Putin knows that no refugee in their right mind isn't want to go and live in the shithole that is Russia. Because it's a shithole. It's a miserable shithole where people have to queue up for a cold potato. So no one's going to go there. Where are people going to go? Where are people going to go when there's nowhere? No, the crops have failed. When the home is flooded. The home is 6 foot underwater. Where are they going to go? Don't forget, half of the land of Bangladesh is below sea level. Where are they going to go? They're completely surrounded by India, who don't really get on with the Bangladeshis. There's a little bit of Burma. That they maybe they could go to Burma. Maybe those Muslims from Bangladesh could go to the country that persecuted Muslims. Oh, okay, yeah, the Rohingya Muslims. Yeah, they were persecuted, weren't they? Yeah, a lot of people were killed. Ethnic cleansing. Okay, so they're probably not going to go to Burma. They're probably not going to go to India. Relations aren't that great. So where are they going to go? Where are they going to go, peeps? Come on, explain it to me, like I'm an idiot. Putin knows this. Putin knows that they're not going to go to Russia. No refugee in their right mind will go to Russia. No human being in their right mind will go to Russia voluntarily. It's a shithole where they don't treat people very well. Human beings have very few human rights in Russia. But that's the future that the Faragists want. That's the future that the Trump voters want. So that you've got not just Putin and the oil cartel countries like Saudi Arabia using refugees as a geographical weapon. You've got active participation in destabilizing regions. Entire vast regions of Africa have been destabilized by the Wagner Group, which is a paramilitary group paid for by the Russian government to go and destabilize countries and create refugees, a machine for creating refugees. Why? Because refugees put pressure on Europe, and that pressure and the use of refugees as a boogeyman by the likes of Farage and Orban and the woman in Italy, whose name escapes me momentarily, this allows the empowerment of the far right. Why is that in the interests of the ghouls that run Russia and the ghouls that run Saudi Arabia? Well, two things. First of all, if the far right get in Europe, they're more likely to be Putinists. They're more likely to be friends of Putin, like Trump, like Farage, right? They're more likely to be working for the Russian state, like Nathan Gill, because that's what fascists do. They work with other fascists around the world. And then you've got the fact that, well, why does Saudi Arabia want this? Saudi Arabia wants it because it knows that democratic states are more likely to fight back against climate change. They're more likely to bring in subsidies for EV cars. They're more likely to push industry to move to cleaner methods of energy production. They're more likely to invest in wind farms and solar panels. Right-wing authoritarian governments are more likely to drill, baby, drill. Who does that benefit? The oil cartels. Who runs the oil cartels? Saudi fucking Arabia. Wake up. You're making money for people who stone people to death for being gay. A country where they wanted to build a line through the desert, a 500-mile long, half a mile high, half a mile wide line through the desert for some fucking stupid reason. and they built 1 fucking meter of it. But they managed to kill 3 people who objected to it, 3 tribesmen who lived on the path that they were going to take through the desert and objected to it. How dare they object? They were murdered by the state, by the Saudi Arabian state. Fuck me, they seem like nice people. Give them the World Cup. I think we should definitely give them the World Cup, just to show how not corrupt FIFA is. And this has been going on. You know, there's something else that Saudi Arabia does as well, which goes under the radar a little bit. The export of Wahhabist extremism. Wahhabi was a Saudi cleric before Saudi Arabia even fucking existed. So he was Arabian. He was an Arabian cleric who espoused a particularly violent and unsettling form of Islam, which has been exported via madrasa schools, which are paid for by Saudi Arabia, all the way across the Muslim world, from Morocco to Indonesia. And this has been, they've been funding these since the 1970s. And this, you know, this is also paying for funding for radical groups and creating conflict, creating displacement, creating refugees, and creating more appetite for people to be anti-Islamic. And they know that you can get these countries in Europe to fuel that it sounds kind of like crazy, doesn't it? That the most Islamic country in the world, the country that is home to Mecca and Medina, the country that you have to take the Hajj, the pilgrimage as part of your duties as a Muslim, you must go and visit the tomb of Muhammad once in your lifetime. That country has been basically setting things up so people don't like Muslims. Why? Because they want to create conflict. Because do you know what's really good for selling fuckloads of oil? War. Do you think Saudi Arabia wants peace in the region? Does it fuck? Does it fuck? Because war is just so profitable for them. This is a country that's got so much money, it doesn't know what to do with all this money. It can't spend it fast enough. It keeps building shite because in the middle of the desert and no one gives a fuck. And then we've got the fact that we see, we've got Belarus deliberately pushing refugees to the EU border in 2021 as a part of hybrid warfare. Belarus, famously under the Lukashenko, the dictator of Belarus, has been in charge there for over 30 years now. Putin's little bitch, which is weird because he's actually older than Putin, so you'd expect him to be the senior person in that power dynamic, but he's not. And then we've got the fact that far-right populism spikes when refugee numbers rise. And then 2015 refugee crisis saw the rise of the AfD in Germany, the surge for Marine Le Pen in France, and also the Brexit vote. In this country, we're not immune. We're totally not immune. We're worse than some other places for this. Syrian war refugees led to a rise of far-right parties gaining ground in Sweden, in Denmark, in Italy. And Trump used migration fear as a core political fuel. I spoke to people in the UK who thought that Trump should win the last election because he's done a lot to stop migration. And that's all they care about. That's all they want, living in a little fucking village where everyone's fucking white. But they're going, fucking immigrants coming over here. I don't see any of them. But there's too many on the telly. So there's too many of them, but there's too many on the telly. It's not representative. Schrodinger's foreigner. In fact, most of the people on those adverts are not from another country. They're actually British. They just don't look white. I mean, how dare they? How dare they be more gorgeous than the white people? Resloy, thank you very much for the £2 super chat. Immigration, a red line. I'm sorry, Starmer has to go. Well, Clive Lewis has broken ranks and he said he's got to go. He said he's got to go. Let's put the cat amongst the pigeons, isn't it? Let's put the Clive amongst the pigeons. But yeah, Labour are doing such a bad job. They're doing such a bad job. But yeah, why would nasty oil, gas, petrostates like Saudi Arabia and like Russia put so much time and energy and investment into creating instability, into creating more climate change, into gumming up the means of us turning into a net zero country and net zero policies all around the world. Why do they do that? Because they want governments here in the UK and in other countries around Europe that block climate policy, that deregulate energy, that continue the fossil fuel, the filthy, disgusting, nightmare fuel addiction that we all have in these countries around the world. They want to demonize climate refugees and demonize climate activists. And it's a feedback loop. More refugees means more far-right governments, fewer climate policies, more climate damage, more refugees. It is a vicious circle, and they're doing it on purpose. It is a wheel, and I intend to break the wheel. I hope you will join me, because these motherfuckers are dictating our futures. These people in other countries are not, the people coming here are not the problem. It's the people who are in charge of these countries who are causing the problems around the world. And this is one that is going to bite us on the arse like you would not believe. There are a few factors coming together. The encroaching right-wing authoritarianism, the drop in birth rates, the wanting to privatize the NHS and anything left of the country's silver, the family silver, which is mostly sold off by Thatcher to people who wanted to make a profit rather than actually, clean up the rivers and lakes in this country, because profit's got to come first. We've got all these factors coming together. We're going to have more refugees. We are going to be facing more floods, more droughts in this country. We're going to have more bad harvests. We're going to be dependent on food coming from other countries that we've told in the last few years that we don't need. We don't like you. We can stand on our own 2 feet because we don't need you. Yeah, like we didn't need other countries in World War II. We just stood on our own 2 feet, didn't we? We weren't getting any logistical support from the Yanks. We weren't getting any support from all the countries in the Commonwealth. There weren't Australian soldiers, and South African soldiers, and Canadian soldiers. We weren't helped out by the French resistance. No, that never happened. It was just us on our own. All right, mate. No man is an island, except the Isle of Man. Miss Paula Thomas, thank you very much for the £5 super chat. I'm beginning not to see the difference between Labour and refuck. Paula, I understand that sentiment, but I just want to say, and thank you for the super chat. Refuck are much worse. Okay, Labour will make our lives more miserable by the looks of things. Refuck are going to kill us. Refuck will make it their mission to kill everyone who gets in their way, because they are sadistic, psychopathic motherfuckers. They will destroy the NHS. People will die. They want to get rid of the old, the weak, the elderly, the infirm. They want to get rid of disabled people. They would love to do an Idi Amin, put all the disabled people in the lake. They would fucking love that. These people are sick, twisted, multi-millionaire motherfuckers. They are the evil people in movies that you see being evil, biting the heads off kittens. And then you look at it, the screen. Are they the baddie? Yeah, they're the baddie. They're the baddie. Definitely the baddie. But you know what? I don't think that Labour and refuck are comparable in that respect. But if Labour enable refuck, which is all they seem to have been doing the last 18 months, is just enabling refuck, then they'll be blamed. They will be blamed just as much for what happens next under a refuck government, in which their disgusting, vile tendrils will touch every part of private life in our country. Who we're allowed to marry, who we're allowed to see, who we're allowed to talk to, what we're allowed to say on the internet, what comments we're allowed to respond to with a laughing emoji. Look what's happening in the States. Anyone made a joke about Charlie Kirk carking it, and the government is trying to lose those people their jobs. The government. Because it was objectively funny that a guy who went on and on about how important it was for everyone to have a fucking gun on fucking campus got shot by a fucking gun on a fucking campus. A guy who he wasn't a Nazi. He was a great debater. Yeah, you can't debate a bullet though, can you, Charlie? He's a scholastic terrorist. That's what he was. Sarcastic terrorism. Look it up. That's what he was. So is J.K. Rowling, by the way. She's a fucking terrorist. Anyway, getting off the subject a little bit there. But here's what we need to do. We need to celebrate immigration. We need to have an Immigrants Day. We need to have a day where we celebrate immigration and make it fucking awesome. Make it where we eat food from all over the world and we make it a real big celebration. Stop the demonization of anyone who happens to pop out their mum in the wrong place. Stop it. Celebrate the Commonwealth. Make it so that kids know what the Commonwealth countries are. Learn about them in school. The Commonwealth that we are part of. It was the British Commonwealth. It's not anymore. It's just the Commonwealth. But learn about it because it's fascinating. Why are they part of the Commonwealth? What happened in the past? What did Britain do? Why are we so rich? Tell me. Immigrants are essential contributors. When we painted, not the roundabouts, but the on the ground, thank you NHS. Remember that? Remember we went out and we tapped pots and things, right? A fifth of the people that we were tapping and our pots and we were painting on the ground to thank you NHS on the roads. That they were immigrants. Okay, immigrants are essential contributors to our country. We need people to be told this over and over again. They care for our elderly. They keep the NHS afloat. They are workers, taxpayers, neighbours, Britons in waiting. We need to fix the asylum seekers. We need to fix the asylum system. Not the refugees. Not the people seeking asylum. Okay? You're pointing you've got the wrong end of the fucking telescope to your eye. This is ridiculous. We need fast decisions. We need safe routes. We need work rights. We need community housing. We need to end hotel profiteering. And we need to smash the gangs by destroying their business model. Okay? As we've seen with the war on drugs, which has been raging for longer than I've been alive. The war on drugs was declared, in 1971 by Nixon? So let me get this straight. 54 years we've been fighting the war on drugs. Can anyone get drugs now? Oh, yes, they can. Oh, yes, they can. I don't know many people who have never taken drugs, apart from myself, my partner, one of my exes. It very rarely happens. If people want drugs in this country, illegal drugs, they want to do some cocaine or some heroin even, or some LSD or take some ecstasy, they fucking can. Because the model of smashing the gangs when it comes to drugs hasn't worked. Because it's been piecemeal. You take out one gang, another gang takes their place. You're never going to get rid of it unless you change the system. Smash the wheel. Legalize all drugs. There you go. That's it. Legalize all drugs tomorrow. That's it. I'll absolutely screw the system for the drug pushers. Because why would you push drugs? Why would you give kids a free hit and then make them pay for the next one? Why would you do that when they can get it from the NHS or the clinic or whatever? What would be the point of drug pushers? And if someone was pushing drugs on children, because obviously children wouldn't be able to access these hard drugs, they get put away for fucking life. That's it. For child abuse. You put them on the nonces wing. That's how you deal with it. What were you in for? Oh, I gave a child some cocaine. Okay, fucking you should be in here. Because that's child abuse, mate. It just fucking is. No two ways about it. Break the fucking wheel. Break the wheel. If you want to know why Labour's approach to to asylum seeking isn't going to work, just look at the war on drugs. I don't want to be here in 50 years' time when I'm 96 years old going, well, I told you it wouldn't work. We have the evidence. We have the evidence. We need to reject fear and we need to embrace the truth. Movement is human. Immigration is strength. Refugees are victims of global powers far bigger and darker than themselves. And we need to build a Britain that leads with compassion, with competence, with moral clarity, not scapegoating, not cruelty, not political theatre. We want a Britain that is worthy of the history we have built together and the future that we deserve. And a huge part of that future is immigration. Preach it, baby. Anyway, I'm going to jump in the chat now. I was a happy immigrant in Stoke-on-Trent working warehouse until I had to return because of, this thing everyone knows, COVID. Yeah. Nick says, again, UK plus EU equals 520 million people, more than enough to fill vacancies. Use the vacancy crisis to make a case for restoring freedom of movement. Just banging the drum for immigration feeds Farage's grift. Yeah, I agree with you on that one. Gallifrey and Ren, I think I was the one to start the Polstock food chat originally. I've recently discovered a passion for cooking and won't shut up about it. That's cool. One of the things I like listening to and hearing about is people's passion, like people getting excited about doing stuff. It's why I don't take the piss out of like hobbies and things like that my friends have and interests that people have, because it's great. It's great that people have interests. It's great that people are making the most of their time on this planet, in a way that makes them happy and doesn't hurt anybody. Doesn't hurt anybody. So yeah, rant time, says Kirsty. Yeah, we should build a bit of better Britain. We just fucking should. And yeah, we can build that better Britain with the help of immigrants. There's no reason why we can't. In fact, we can't do it without them. You cannot do it without them. Cocaine is evil, says Diz. Yes, it is. But what's even more evil is the fact that you have people in this country who will happily go out on a Saturday night and snort a load of cocaine, not thinking for a moment about the trail of blood that leads from their nose, presumably, across Europe, maybe down into West Africa. Maybe it'll go to Guinea and help prop up the government over there that regularly massacres its own people. Then it'll just hop across the Atlantic, maybe go to Colombia, maybe go to Bolivia and fund those drug gangs, the cartels that run everything. And that particular farmer who was told in Bolivia that he had to grow coca leaves for the cocaine on his fields, and he said he didn't want to, and then had his family massacred and murdered in front of him, raped and then murdered in front of him, and say, you still don't want to do this? And he goes, okay. They don't care about that. Or if it's heroin, I mean, it's come from the fucking Taliban, hasn't it? It's come from Afghanistan. And there's a trail of blood from your arm all the way to the fucking, the Hindu Kush. Hindu Kush. Oh, that's Pakistan, isn't it? What are the mountains in Afghanistan? There are so many people out there who don't give a fuck about all that. They just want. I've spoken to one of them who said, "I don't care where it comes from. I all I care about is that I get it when talking about illegal drugs." And if that's their attitude, okay, give it to them, but just don't have the whole rape, murder, planes being blown out the sky by Pablo Escobar, or the Taliban being propped up, because the money where did the Taliban get the money to keep going for the last 20 years under US, UK occupation of their country? Drugs. They got it through drugs. They got it through. So yeah, trail of blood, my friends, trail of blood. But yeah, people are going to take it anyway. I can't stop them. I can't. I've tried. People want their drugs, they'll take their fucking drugs. They don't give a shit. I mean, it'd be like telling a smoker that 500,000 children die every year from secondhand smoke in developing nations. Maybe if we didn't give, maybe if they didn't contribute their £20 a day to these tobacco barons, maybe they wouldn't have so much power to take the government of Sierra Leone to court for wanting to put health messages on the packets of cigarettes to say that these kill you if you use them properly. Yeah. Maybe they couldn't afford as many lawyers then. Maybe they couldn't afford to push cigarettes onto people who have fuck all in Central Africa, who go and get a Lucy. That's one cigarette. With the money that they've got that day, they've got the choice. Should I buy some food or should I buy one cigarette? Oh, well, I'm addicted, so I'm going to have to buy the one cigarette. I mean, you can tell people who smoke that every time they throw a cigarette butt on the ground, that gets into the rivers and then the streams and then goes out to the sea. It's made of plastic or some form of plastic. It makes up the second most, in terms of weight, in the ocean of plastic pollution. Cigarette tips are the second worst contributor after fishing stuff, fishing nets, fishing equipment that's been thrown overboard, plastic fishing nets. The second biggest contributor by weight. Think about how much a cigarette filter tip. Think about how much that weighs. What, less than a gram? Think about how many of them you need to make up that weight. Trillions, my friends, trillions. And I'll get smokers who go, I never throw cigarettes on the floor. Fuck off. Honestly, if you smoke and you want to tell me that you've never, ever, ever thrown a cigarette butt on the floor, I'm sorry. That's where I have to walk away because I can't trust you. If you're just gonna lie to me to my face, because no one has ever managed that. There's been out drinking, and there's been one point where they've gone, or maybe they've tried to put it in a bin and it's fallen out the side of the bin. But I get told this. I get told that I'm unreasonable and, because I don't like people smoking. But I just don't. But people are going to smoke. I don't think it should be illegal. I just don't want it anywhere near me. I think it should be legal in public. I don't think you should be allowed to smoke in public. And then that goes for ganja as well. I fucking hate the smell. Just, if you want to do it in your own home, that's fine. That's fine. You can get it from your clinic. Go to your clinic and get your stuff, and that other thing that smokers do, which is they take the cigarette packet out and they put it on the fucking table. Why do they do that? Fuck off. Stop it. Put that. There's a picture of a diseased lung on that. I don't want to see that while I'm having a drink. Can you put your picture of a diseased lung? Imagine you just get your phone out and you put a picture up of like a headless corpse, and then you put it on the table. Like, hey, everyone look at that. And you're trying to ignore it while you're drinking. You're just, why have you got a picture of a headless corpse on your phone? That's a weird thing to have. Why do I have to look at it? Can you turn your phone off, please? Turn it upside down or something? No. You need to look at it. And also, smokers ruin beer gardens, which really fucks me off. Because if it's a hot day, and we don't really have much air conditioning in this country, do we? So if you're on a hot day and you're in the pub, having a nice chat with your better half or your worse half or your friends, your neighbours, your relatives, your mum and dad, whoever. And then you're like, it's a bit hot in here. Should we go and sit in the beer garden? You've got kids with you. You've got children with you. And you're like, let's go and sit in the beer garden. So you sit in the beer garden and there's always some fucker smoking. And they're making your children breathe in that toxic smoke. That kills children. Hundreds of thousands of children every year. And they sit there so smug and so fucking self-righteous. Oh, look at me. I can do this thing. I'm allowed to do it here. So I'm going to make everyone smell the smoke. And so what do you do? I mean, with my partner, because she's deaf, it's quite hard normally to be inside a building like a pub because it's too noisy for her to be able to communicate. So going out to the beer garden is the only way that she can join in with the conversation. But then she'll have to breathe in the toxic, disgusting, horrible cigarette smoke. Because people are like, it's my right. It's my right. My God, it's in the Magna Carta, I tell you. No, it's not. It's a fucking dirty bastard American company selling you death sticks to make money out of you. That's all it is. It's an addiction tax. Are you addicted? Got addicted? They put chemicals in the cigarettes to make them more addictive. And then, don't get me started on people who are vegans, ethical vegans who smoke. Like, are you fucking kidding me? Do you want me to send you the pictures of the beagles that they tested the cigarettes on? Have you seen them with their masks with the cigarettes? And they made these beagles they tested on dogs. Not even rats, okay? Not even mice. Dogs. They tested it on dogs and made dogs die painfully of cancer to suss out how to put more chemicals, toxic chemicals, in these particular cigarettes to make them more addictive. Can you believe that? Well, they fucking did. So don't think you're an animal rights fucking protester or activist if you smoke, because you're not. Because you don't give a shit about our animal experimentation. You go, oh, you shouldn't do it when it comes to makeup, which I don't wear. Okay, cool. What about cigarettes that you actually fucking smoke? Actively giving money to these companies that did this thing. Tested on beagles. I mean, fuck's sake. Of all dogs, beagles are lovely. Why would you test on... why don't you test on a crap dog? I don't know, like a fucking, XL bully or something. I'm back to, why do you just not test on dogs at all? Why don't we just not have cigarettes? Why isn't that just not a thing? And if people want to do it, they can do it in the discomfort of their own home. Nowhere near me. I think Morocco is the best place to grow weed, says Resley. Yeah. Well, don't forget, weed's not a friendly bloody drug either. The guy who killed Stephen Lawrence, the ringleader of that gang, the reason why he got away with it for so long was because his dad was one of London's biggest weed dealers. Not cocaine, not heroin, weed. And he had enough money to pay off the corrupt coppers to look the other way from a racist murder. or, you know, do the investigation wrong so the murderers got free. So yeah, it's all any of these things that come with criminality. So prostitution as well. I think they should just fucking legalize it, regulate it to the hilt. Make sure the people involved in the doing what they're doing are safe. Make sure there's no more sex workers being raped, being murdered. Make sure there's no more heroin addicts overdosing, because you just can't. You just don't have enough heroin to overdose on it. You just cannot do that. And yeah, if you want to queue up outside a clinic on Monday morning like a sketchy weirdo and, you know, get your fix, fine. Pay 50p, get your fucking fix, whatever it costs the NHS, just pay it, and, you know, it'll destroy the model of drug dealing, because drug dealing is the most profitable and easiest and least dangerous way of criminals making money in this country. What's the options? You're a 12-year-old, right? You're a 12-year-old criminal mastermind. What are you going to do? You're going to break into the Louvre and steal the crown jewels, are you? Oh, you fuck. Are you going to break into people's houses? Well, maybe, but it's fucking dangerous. You might get caught. There might be a dog. Might fucking bite your arm off. You don't know. But drugs, you can sell drugs on the playground. Fucking easy, isn't it? So yeah. There you go. Cannabis really affects your mind after prolonged use. Yes, it does, Oliver. I make this point quite a lot. Like, it makes people paranoid. It fucks up. It chemically absolutely fucks up a part of your body, brain that deals with reality and danger or something, and it makes people believe the maddest shit. And the people I've met in my life, and I know that the plural of anecdotes isn't data, but the people I've met in my life who have believed the maddest shit have always been massive potheads. 100% of the time. I've not met anyone who's a massive fucking conspiracy theorist who believes all kinds of nonsense, who isn't also a massive pothead, or wasn't in the past. I'm not, you know, but yeah, Oliver says, I was in prison for drugs for 3 years. Bloody hell, Oliver. You know, and that's the thing. If you legalize them, no one will go to jail. We could allow half the prison population out, because they're in there. Well, maybe not half. I think it's like a third of the prison population is in for non-violent drugs offences. Okay, let them out. There you go. That's cleared up some space for the actual criminals, for the rapists that we seem to let get away with it all the time. Let's do that. Come on, we'll do it together. Come on, Labour, be bold. It'll be fun. No, what are you doing? Are you making it people have to wait for 20 years to get citizenship? Okay. Well done. Anyway, I love you, and I'm going to have to leave you. I'm sorry. I've got things to do today, and thank you for all the super chats. I'm going to take Kat out for a piece of cake, and a coffee, because it's a Sunday, and that seems like something that you should do on a Sunday. Yesterday, I went to the Lumiere show in Durham. It's a big light installation show. It's like the River of Light in Liverpool. We have it here every 2 years. This is my third time that I've been to the Durham Lumiere, and this is going to be the last Durham Lumiere because we now have a refoot council. Yeah. And they're blaming the Lib Dems because they're saying, well, when it was a Lib Dem council there, they decided to back it. No. They put it forward to saying, do we want to keep going with this? And Refuck said no, because they see it as a waste of money, even though it brings in lots and lots of tourism and lots of people into the city centre. And yeah, it's really enjoyable. Anyway, there were some things that were really, really nice last night. And obviously it took the artists a long time to put together, for our wonderment. But then there was also, you know those signs that they have, temporary signs on the motorway that say keep left? And they have like, the yellow, with the yellow lights, and the lights light up to give you an instruction. Yeah. They had some of them, right? And here's the thing. Some of them were to tell pedestrians where to go. So they'll have like a little arrow, or let's say like one way, right? Some of them were art installations. And what they'd done is they just got some fucking Radiohead lyrics and got the words from like Fitter Happier or something to come up on the. And I was just thinking, right, I'm just going to mention this before I go. Outside the cathedral here, someone made, an artist made a field on Palace Green of flowers, these lit up flowers, and they were otherworldly. They were huge. There were small ones on the outside, and there were bigger going into the middle. There was like a tree that they had made, and it was beautiful. It looked like it was an alien planet. The colors changed. Obviously, they'd spent a lot of time doing this. Imagine turning up, before everything gets installed, and you're talking to the other artists and say, "Oh, so what did you do?" Well, I made 100. Me and my team, we made 100 of these individual flowers that light up and they change colors. And, it's this big spectacle. It's going to be in front of the cathedral. It's going to be lit up. It's going to look beautiful. What did you do? Well, I got one of those, those motorway signs that light up and tell you which way to go. Yeah. I bought one of them, and I'm just going to write words on it. Oh, what words? Radiohead lyrics, mostly, by the looks of things. Okay, did you make them? Did you make it yourself? No, I just hired it from HSS. Okay, all right. Well, I suppose that'll be tucked away somewhere in the corner somewhere, and no one's going to see. No, we're going to have 7 of them. What? I'm going to have 7 of them all around the city. Okay, brilliant. So here's the thing. Whenever I go to see an art exhibition, go to an art gallery, anything like that, here's my litmus test to whether something is art or not, because I know there are going to be arguments till the end of time over what constitutes art and what doesn't. I am not an artist. Here's what I think constitutes art. I look at something and I go, I couldn't do that. Whether it's a painting, whether it's a sculpture, whether it's an installation, I couldn't do that. When it is a brick in the middle of a room or a fluorescent light that turns on and off, I look at it and go, I could do that. And if there were art prizes given out for wacky ideas, then Monty Python should win the Turner Prize every fucking year, because they came up with the wackiest ideas in the 1960s. Well done, Monty Python. You win again, you wacky idea people. It's the execution that matters. The execution. That's my take on it. That's my take on art or not art. It's like my music genres. There's only 2 genres of music. Stuff you like, stuff you don't like. That's it. Enjoy the rest of your life. So anyway, there are many forms of art, says Angry Pagan. Yeah. But like, if I'm looking at something and I'm like, I could do that, it's not art to me. And I'm going to have our own interpretations of it, but I'm just like, that's just an idea. That's just an idea. I have wacky ideas. The Ministry of Silly Brexits, says Nick. Indeed. Okay, so I'm going to get going now. Oh, I've been rabbiting on for a little bit longer than I thought on my sermon this morning. But thank you very much for joining me this morning. I'll be back tomorrow, bright and early, at 10 o'clock for some fun and excitement. No, 10 o'clock. Did I just say 10 o'clock? 9 o'clock. Sorry. Jesus. It's been a long morning. I'll be back tomorrow at 9 with Morning Brew. So hopefully I will see you then. And in the evening, hopefully doing a stateside, talking about the latest cacophony of crap coming from America. Jesus Christ, it's hard to keep up. And until next time, I'd like to say thank you very much for watching. Thanks for the super chats. That's really kind of you. Give us a like on the way out. Give us a like. I hope you have a really, really cool rest of the day, whatever you choose to do. It's Sunday here again. A walk in the park, read the colour supplements, the TV guide. And you know what? Have a sleep. Have a fucking sleep. Oh, the Sunday sleep. And until next time, I'll say thanks for watching. Hello, good evening, welcome, and goodbye.